do it. Hello, and welcome back to And Away We Go F1 Podcast, a Formula One podcast that goes beyond the track limits to talk about travel, food and lifestyle surrounding the sport. My name's Diane Bortoletto, and today I'm in Port Macquarie. I have just helped my parents move house, which explains all the boxes behind me, and it's been a massive day. I'm absolutely shattered, but I did set the alarm. I did wake up at just before, about 11:30 p.m. I had a little sleep to watch the race live, the last race of the season. But we'll get to that in a second. And I'm joined again by the lovely Kira Gillen, who is the co-founder of Formula Live Pulse, the awesome app which is your best friend, the best companion you can have when you're watching a Grand Prix, full of all the data, all the stats, all the team radio, all the tyre strategies and the rest. Welcome back to the show, Kira.
Thank you for having me back. It feels very special to be here on the last race of the season.
And we went in to Abu Dhabi with a three-way title fight between Lando Norris, who's been leading the championship in these last few races, Max Verstappen, who was 12 points behind, and Oscar Piastri, who was 16 points behind Lando, so 4 points behind Max. So it was anyone's title to take, with Lando obviously with a clear advantage, and all he had to do was finish on the podium to cinch the title, and it's exactly what he did.
I think I was probably a little bit more the opposite of optimistic, but the pessimistic than you were going into this race. I think I just knew that Lando was going to do it. I short of having a crazy race, which obviously is possible, as you said, he only had to finish on the podium, and I think McLaren were going to do everything to make that happen. And we'll talk about it because I do think it actually impacted Piastri's strategy. Fair play to McLaren, they didn't mess it up. And fair play to Lando, he made sure he got his podium.
Yeah. Congratulations to Lando Norris. Yes, his first World Championship. He took advantage of situations and scored the results when he needed to. So fair play to him, well done. And I will say that being Australian and wearing my Oscar Piastri t-shirt and my Ferrari hat because, I have to. I'm Italian. I don't have a choice. But even as an Oscar Piastri fan, I wasn't rooting for Lando. Let's just say that. I was really hoping there was a miracle to happen where Oscar might have been able to take the championship. But what I did love seeing was Lando's reaction to winning. And it was actually really sweet. And his mum is just the cutest thing ever. And just seeing all the emotions between him and his family, found that really heartwarming. The rest of the season and the rest of McLaren, not so much, but we can delve into that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I was worried he wasn't going to take his helmet off at one point because he said he was crying, and I thought that he didn't want to show that he'd been emotional. And I was like, oh God. And then he did make one comment about being a loser because he was crying, and I thought, the fragility of masculinity that they worry about their perception when they're crying. But I think that was just a kind of passing thing, and he just, he embraced it, and he was very emotional, and it was lovely to see, and he could see how much it meant to him. And of course, because these guys trained for years, we have our opinions on Lando. I have my opinions on other drivers, some good, some bad, but you can't deny that they work hard to get to this place. And I do think, we've talked about it, I do think Lando showed incredible composure and consistency throughout the year to really get that win. And I admire him for that. I don't want him to win again. No, I'm being unfair.
One now, that's enough.
Exactly, one now. No, but
exactly. But it's not just, all the hard work that the drivers put in to get to that point. It's everything that they've sacrificed, that their families have sacrificed, and there's so many really rich stories on the grid about those massive sacrifices. Like Liam Lawson's parents sold their family home so their kid could continue racing. Like, look, I'm not a parent, but I couldn't imagine doing that. Yes, you want to support your kids, but wow, that's huge. So you hear stories like that. And it was really funny seeing Lando's dad was interviewed after the race. And on Sky Sports. It was so funny because the Sky Sports commentators were really trying to get one of those stories out of Lando's dad. Like, what does it mean? What was the journey? Tell us a bit about like what you had to do to get here. And do you know what he said? It was hilarious. So obviously he's on the spot. He's full of emotion. He's full of adrenaline. But rather than give a kind of, yes, I had to work 3 jobs kind of story like Lewis Hamilton's dad, or, had to sell everything that we owned, or move to Europe, or move the whole family somewhere so my son could continue racing. He said, oh yeah, we had to travel nearly every weekend, lots of really amazing places, some less amazing places, but a lot of travel. It was a lot of fun, lot of travel. Because I could see they kept asking him questions, like leading questions, and he just wasn't kind of getting it. It was pretty funny. But, I don't know when he made his money. I know he's a very wealthy man, Lando's dad, which has helped Lando race and continue racing to the top level of the sport. But yes, he didn't give any of those kind of struggle stories that the commentary team were really fishing for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing there weren't any.
Maybe there weren't.
Yeah, like I don't know enough, but I do, as far as I'm aware, Lando and I want to say George, I'm not sure, have come from money and didn't have the same kind of struggles as someone like Lawson had. I didn't know that about Lawson, but or Lewis, that they really kind of had to figure it out and really go above and beyond to get money for their kid to race. So I think a lot of people in a lot of the families in Formula One are quite wealthy, because it is quite an expensive sport to be in. It's expensive for a fan as well.
Oh, well, exactly. But motorsport in general is a very expensive sport to participate in at any level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to get sidetracked, but really quickly, there's an Irish driver who in Formula 2 who was doing really well. And he's young. So, hopefully he's going to get, I think he's going to get another season. Alex Dunn, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was with McLaren and their relationship ended recently. And it was kind of like, it's still a bit unclear what exactly happened. But the rumors is that he ran out of money. And, you just kind of feel so sorry for these guys because it's like, it's their whole life. You know what I mean? Like everything okay, they're only 18, 19 at this age, but it is everything. And as you said, like Lawson's family selling their family home, like the thought of Lawson having lost his seat, if he had lost his seat in Red Bull, Racing Bulls, and then his family hits, you know what I mean? It just feels like, oh God, is this a whole waste? I mean, obviously there's other categories to go on to, but Formula One being the pinnacle of it, you just hope that it works out for them, and obviously it can't because there's only a limited amount of spots. But
right.
but yeah,
only 20 drivers, 22 next year. 22. We get 2 more. Yeah, I know. But yes, you're right. It's such a massive thing for anybody to go through, and their whole support system, their families, those small businesses or larger businesses that have been sponsoring them from the start. It's mega. It's huge. To see Lando so emotional in the car, on the podium, in the post-race interviews. Yeah, it was nice to see him vulnerable a little bit, I guess, overwhelmed with emotion. And I did enjoy that, I will admit. And I did shed a tear as well. I think it was... it was seeing his mum's reaction that really did it for me. I was like, oh, look at that. It's just so nice. And then Oscar also hugging Lando's parents was,
Yeah. I have to say, I also thought, because Lando has always kind of portrayed this kind of like, and everybody's got judgment and everyone's got opinions, and he probably hasn't portrayed this, but I've always kind of got this kind of like arrogant kind of like, and he was one of the later ones to get a girlfriend and all this kind of stuff. And again, this is just me projecting as a nobody sitting at home watching him on TV, okay? But the moment with his girlfriend, I just thought was so tender and so sweet. And I just thought, oh, yeah, like the family stuff is amazing as well. But it's so nice to see the complete thing for him. His friends were there, his parents were there, his girlfriend. And it was a real kind of like, he took all those moments in to stop with them and really like acknowledge the win and the support.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. But I've got to laugh that when he was on the podium being interviewed and he said, my family's here, my girlfriend's here, I love my mum, I love my dad, I love my family. Like, and he's kind of stumbled. It was like he didn't say, I love my girlfriend. Oh, yeah, I did have a little chuckle there going, you just been caught out, almost dropping the L word.
I noticed that as well, that he didn't seem comfortable saying it.
It was an awkward moment. And I did have a little chuckle at, I don't know, 2:15 in the morning, whatever ridiculous time it was for me to watch it on the Eastern States. Yes, well, the race itself, though, the Abu Dhabi race was, quali. We start with quali was a little heartbreaking. I guess that's where all my hopes were being laid down that, maybe Oscar would get pole position. Oscar needed to win the race and for Lando to finish sixth or lower for him to win the championship. When Oscar qualified in third position, really there was, oh my God, just nothing in it.
Yeah.
Nothing. 3 100ths behind.
Yeah.
Well, Max qualified on pole. So Max was on pole and then Lando Norris was in second and then Oscar was 3 100ths of a second behind Lando. So just. And then George Russell in fourth, who had a great quali, but then just fell away a bit in the race. Charles Leclerc qualified in fifth. Fernando Alonso, sixth. Well done. My cousin, Gabriel Bortoletto, 1T, not 2, who qualified in seventh in the Kick Sauber. Last time we'll see Kick Sauber on the grid. Farewell, Kick Sauber. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Audi next year.
Yeah, Audi next year, exactly.
I won't miss those greens. No. I have to say those, highlighter greens,
In eighth position was Esteban Ocon in the Haas for qualifying. Isaac Hadjar qualified ninth. Big news with Isaac Hadjar this week as well. And Yuki Tsunoda, also big news this week, qualified in 10th place. That's qualifying. If we go to the race itself, the first lap, first corner, I think the whole world was just tuned in like, oh, is Max going to cut across Lando? Lando didn't need to take any silly risks, really. Max needed to win and for Lando to finish fourth or lower. Oscar was in third. First start wasn't even that close. It just, they were in the same order. And then Oscar did a mega overtake of Lando. It was so good.
It was amazing.
It was.
I literally jumped off my couch. I was screaming. I was like, come on, Oscar. I couldn't believe it. And it was Oscar of old, of earlier in the season before Monza. It was so great to see. I was it's silly, but I was so proud of him. I was like, yeah, go get it, I knew Lando wasn't going to take a risk because, again, he had to finish on the podium. He's got a fast car. He just didn't need to risk it. But I was so glad to see that Oscar didn't just sit obediently in P3 and go, okay, that's my race. He was like, no, I'm going to go for this. I've got a different strategy. I'm going for the win.
Yeah. So Oscar started the race on hard tyres, whereas Lando, Max, and just about everyone else in the field were on mediums. So that was interesting in itself that McLaren split the strategies for the drivers. I did hear that McLaren were not sharing data between the drivers, that the garages were totally split, that they were having all separate racing briefings. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard ahead of this race. And then Daddy Zach came out after saying, 3 weeks ago, that they would rather lose the championship to Max Verstappen than favour one of their drivers. Turned out this week to say, oh no, we'll be using common sense. And if one of our drivers can't win the championship, we're not going to sacrifice a driver's championship for a fourth place or a fifth place. And if one of them can help each other, it was like, oh, here we go again. But as it turned out, that didn't need to happen. But yes, Oscar's overtake was just brilliant. And, I was watching it, it was after midnight and I had the laptop set up in my bed. I was staying at my parents' house because I'm helping them move house. And I screamed as well. It was just so good. But that pretty much was the only action of the race. The rest of the race was, yes, tense because of what was at stake. But if we were watching this race in round 12 or round 10 of the championship, we'd be calling it really boring.
What I was thinking was about Piastri's strategy. So I was interested in the fact that they went on hards, but I found it crazy that Piastri, when Max pitted, Piastri had a 14-second lead and they kept him out there and let Max eat into that lead. And I thought, No way. No way. If there wasn't the opportunity for Lando to win the championship, there is no way they would have kept him out there. I do think the hards were definitely the better tire for McLaren, that you could see it when Lando also went on the hards. He was much faster. But at the same time, to lose that much time to Max and just be sitting there and going, oh, how are you getting on? Like, I get this. I get that the stint for going on to the mediums was later, but clearly he was struggling, clearly. And so that frustrated me, because I was like, okay, you go in a different strategy because you're saying that you're trying to win it, each of you. But actually, I wonder if they really were. I wonder if the reason, because then Max said something in the press conference afterwards. He goes, oh, Piastri being on a different strategy kind of made things more difficult for us because we didn't know. He was kind of, remember exactly what he said, but he didn't know when they were going to pay it or something like that. And so it made me think, a cynical thought, but that, they only did it to F with Max. They didn't actually really care about Piastri really winning the race. They did it just to mess with his ability to back up the pack or
predict what was going to happen.
Yeah, right. I think Piastri massively played the team game. I hope it stands to him next year. We have to wait and see. I think that they sacrificed yet again Piastri's race for Lando. I mean, there was a couple little moments that we can talk about, but ultimately it was quite a non-event of a race.
Well, I tend to agree with you there that, when they kept Oscar out, it was like, hit him already. And then Charles Leclerc was putting a lot of pressure on Lando Norris. So Lando was running in third, Charles was in fourth, and putting a lot of pressure consistently. It felt like just about the whole race. And Lando had to really fight to keep Charles behind. And Charles did have a couple of little goes, but not quite enough. Yeah, so when Charles pitted, then they pitted Lando, which is when they should have pitted Oscar, because Oscar's tyres were running out. But they obviously kept Oscar out to, protect Lando's position in the championship.
Yeah.
The other incident was Yuki Tsunoda. So Yuki, it got announced this week, wasn't it, that Yuki will no longer be on the grid. He's out of Red Bull next season. He's been demoted to reserve driver, and I feel really sorry for him. It's the second seat curse in that Red Bull team. He was doing so well in Racing Bulls before he went across to Red Bull. He's come out saying he's going to keep trying, but yes. So as a result,
Isaac Hadjar is moving into to Red Bull. Red Bulls,
Yeah, so Isaac Hadjar is being promoted from Racing Bulls into Red Bull next year. So he's taking the second seat next to Max Verstappen. Next year too is a whole new set of regulations. So it'll be a new generation of car. Things might be different, let's hope, because Isaac Hadjar in his rookie season this season has really impressed everybody. Considering the start he had in Melbourne where he didn't even... Oh, God, the formation lap crashed. It was just heartbreaking, but he bounced back and he's gotten really good results. A lot of consistency there. I mean, he's quite feisty. I kind of like that about him. Like, he's just comes out kind of punching.
Yeah, I was a bit scared he'd be a bit too feisty, but actually I think he's managed to find a good balance in Formula 1 to what he was in Formula 2. You still get a bit of like feisty kind of from him, but it's not. I was worried he was going to be actually a little bit like Tsunoda, that it's just a bit belligerent at times, but I do hope, obviously Hadjar does really well, and I really hope. I'd be very nervous for him after 1 year in Formula 1 that he's going into Red Bulls. You got to admire Red Bull for the fact that, I got to admire Max. Also Red Bull as well, obviously, because they had a crazy start to their season. But to get second in the championship on his own, going into that second seat is really... There's a lot of pressure on it, but the fact that Max can do it all on his own and still get second season and beyond without a second driver just really puts even, I think, a lot of extra pressure on you.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wanted to say about Tsunoda was, look, I like Tsunoda. I think he's a sweet guy, and I hope he finds himself a seat at some point again in Formula 1. But I had to laugh at his radio message going, "Don't worry, I've got this." When they were like, hold up Norris. And that man did not have it. He did not have it at all. Instead, he got himself a penalty. Gosh, the hell.
No, like moving
I was
under
like,
braking,
dude.
like didn't you like 2 manoeuvres which you're not allowed to do when someone's overtaking, and then Norris exceeded track limits to avoid a collision with Tsunoda. So Norris was under investigation for exceeding track limits and gaining an advantage. Tsunoda was under investigation for moving twice, which you're not allowed to do. I mean, the Sky Sports commentary team kind of brushed over this. They said that in a very similar situation, when that had happened in the past, the driver that had exceeded track limits and gained an advantage copped a penalty.
I was surprised he didn't.
Yeah, and you know,
honest.
and the argument was that, well, you could have backed off. Like you could have backed off, but you didn't. You chose to continue on with the overtake. I think Norris was probably too far into the overtake when that happened for him to be able to really back off without exceeding track limits. So, yeah, a tough one to call, but Norris got lucky, maybe again, you know, and Tsunoda copped a penalty. I mean, what else happened in the race? That was it, really. There was no yellow flags, no safety cars, no contact.
Yeah. The only things that were kind of interesting, but that we didn't even get to see, were Lewis coming from 16th to 8th, which is impressive, finishing the points. And he did a 2 pit stop strategy. He started on softs, didn't make any inroads. And then I think he went, I'm going to say mediums. But either way, he just didn't seem to be making any kind of progress. And so for him to end in the points was actually great. They didn't show us any of this, of course. But
No.
I mean, a couple of people ended up in the points. That was impressive. Hulkenberg ended up in the points as well at 9th. Stroll in 10th. I mean, Stroll's such a non-event.
Yeah, Lance Stroll really, I mean, to finish 10th for him is a really good result. Have you got the top 10 there? Do you want to run us through the top 10?
I do. Yeah, I do. So obviously, as you know, Max Verstappen won the race. I'm sorry, we haven't actually talked about Max. Fair play to Max. He did have a stellar race and did really well.
He did.
You know, yeah. And I do feel like actually watching Max over the past few years, I do think he's matured so much. You know, so it was really impressive to watch him win and his composure and then his reaction afterwards and everything. So Max won. Oscar was 2nd. Lando was 3rd. Charles Leclerc was 4th, which again is quite impressive, seeing as they've got a tractor and he's really, I mean, it's impressive, you know. Okay, it was only 1 place from 5th to 4th, but still. George finished 5th. Alonso was 6th. Ocon was 7th. Hamilton was 8th. Hulkenberg was 9th. And Stroll was 10th.
Interesting in that top 10. Yeah. No Williams. Carlos got a podium last week. Yeah. No Williams in the top 10. You know, Yuki Tsunoda in his last race, he finished in 14th. Antonelli also had a shocker of race. Like the Mercedes just didn't, like even George Russell was losing time lap after lap. So he was really struggling in that race as well. Yeah. Both Alpines were last and second last. Pierre Gasly second last. And the Racing Bulls. Yeah. Both of them, you know, 17th, 18th, Hadjar just beating, you know, Lawson.
But I also heard the commentators were saying afterwards that apparently, and I hadn't realised this, but I suppose it makes a lot of sense, that Alpine stopped developing their car ages ago.
Yeah.
Ages ago. And they were saying, it was interesting, they were talking about how Red Bull kept developing the car because obviously they got a whiff of, we could get this championship, we could get this, not necessarily the constructors, but the winners championship. And they were saying, I wonder if it will have an impact on them in 2026, if they sacrifice anything for 2026, for 2025. But you do wonder, though, for the teams that like said, you know what, like Ferrari didn't. I mean, they were terrible, but they were like, we've stopped developing the car. You would hope miracles can happen. The Ferrari will have an advantage next year. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Alpine. Do they have right? The gods, they have to favour us.
Pretty much constant disappointment at this point. Like it's just you're hanging there, you're passionate, you love your team. We love Ferrari, but it's just our hopes just get crushed every race. It's so hard seeing Hamilton. I was hoping that he would have a really strong race and finish the year on a high and come back in reinvigorated. But you were telling me about the team radio with Hamilton.
Yeah, it was a bit of an awkward thing. So basically Hamilton sent a lovely message over the team radio saying about how he's always going to, you know, work for the guys and he's always going to push and he's really happy to be a part of the team, etc. And then crickets, nothing. And we were watching it like, there's a clip on Instagram and it was just like, And I was like, no, this can't be real. And then eventually he goes, oh, just checking you got that message. And his engineer was like, oh, yeah, sorry, we were just talking. But yeah, it's been great to race with you as well this year, to work with you as well this year. And I just thought, like, come on.
Your driver is talking to you and you're the race engineer. That's your one job, is to, and he's pouring his heart out at the end of his first season, a really tough season for him with Ferrari. And you're like, oh, what? Yeah, sorry, missed that because we were just having a little chat here in the office. Wow, that's...
it's just like, it's, as I was saying, and you were laughing because you're like, wow, but like the disconnect, the constant disconnect. And it's just like, come on, this is, I just find it, we've talked about this before, but I find it really bizarre that Ferrari would pay 80 million to bring in a 7-time world champion into their team and not listen to him. Literally not be listening to him. And I just find the arrogance mind-blowing. Yes, Ferrari have a legacy. Yes, Ferrari have amazing wins, etc. But they have not won a championship or constructors in 20 years, So he most recently has. And I think that they're under pressure. I think if they don't, maybe they, who might say, but I do think if they don't get themselves together, they're under pressure to lose someone like Charles, and they will lose Hamilton. Hamilton's not going to stick around. Why would he stick around for that?
Well, we talked about the Charles rumour last week, didn't we? That he'd signed a sort of agreement apparently with Aston Martin, that if Ferrari hadn't performed in the first X amount of races, that he had an option to walk away for 2027 and potentially join Aston Martin. So yes, you're right. There is a real risk there. And I mean, in my head, Ferrari is still a top team. Like, Ferrari are still winners. Ferrari are still, I don't look at Ferrari and go, oh, you're a midfield team. But that's in fact what they are, like, in reality, looking at their results. But my perception of them will never be that, because I'm a huge fan. And also, it's just the Schumacher era is just ingrained in me, like when he just won week after week after week. I mean, he was the Max Verstappen of, the 90s, 2000s. It was, untouchable.
That's the problem in many ways. The Ferrari are still, riding on the coattails of Schumacher. You know what I mean? It's like, look, since then we have had X number of champions. We've seen X number of changes in the car, like as in the regs, etc. And you just feel that while other teams are innovating and motivating and changing, Ferrari is still in this, oh, well, we know how to do it because we did it 20 years ago. And it's like, well, no, things have changed. And so you need to change. You need to modernize, it's bizarre.
Just to jump back to Tsunoda for a bit. So he doesn't have a race seat next year. He was reserve driver for Red Bull, but it's also Honda's last race and Renault's last race in Formula One. So no more Renault engines and and with Honda out as well, I think the Honda-Tsunoda connection was very valuable, both from a market point of view in Japan, but also a financial point of view for Red Bull. Yeah. And rising up through the ranks to take the Racing Bull seat that Hadjar currently has is Arvid Lindblad, who's a Swedish Brit. So he's graduating from Formula 2. Interesting choice, because he's not champion in Formula 2 or Formula 3.
I think he has the Red Bull spirit. That's the impression I've gotten, that because we watched Formula 2 actually, and I think he has the Red Bull spirit, he has the aggression, he has, in a very nice way, the arrogance. And I think that's, what attracts them to him. I think there's been a lot of drivers who've not. I mean, Behrman didn't win, Bortoletto is the only one who won Formula 2. Like Antonelli didn't win, Hadjar didn't win, Behrman didn't win. And there's definitely a couple of other guys there older guys that didn't win either. Yeah. Sainz even skipped Formula 2. I think he went from Formula 3 to Formula 1. I remember seeing that and I think there's a couple of other over the years of drivers who have skipped one of the things, you know.
I mean,
I don't know, but I know what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying, like, because the reason why it's interesting also is because someone like Leonardo Fornaroli, who won Formula 3 and back-to-back won Formula 2, barely got an academy. He just got accepted to a McLaren, along with Richard Verschoor, who's been in Formula 2 for about like 5-6 years, so he kind of had to leave. But it's like, that's crazy. You win back-to-back both Formula, and you don't even have a seat in Formula 1.
Yeah.
Like, it's
especially as a rookie. I mean, that's exactly what Oscar Piastri did, and George Russell and Lando Norris as well. They won Formula 3 as a rookie, Formula 2 as a rookie, and then into Formula 1. As you've said lots of times on, you know, the podcast in the last few episodes, this is Oscar Piastri's third full season in Formula 1, and to be fighting at the pointy end for a real shot at the World Drivers' Championship is such a fantastic achievement. I mean, the whole of Australia were really gunning for him and hoping a different result to what we got, but the fact he even got there has us feeling so proud of our only Australian driver on the grid. He had a brilliant season against some really tough odds with lots of conjecture, lots of, can we say, questionable calls from McLaren, the team. I mean, the favouritism towards Lando is not perceived. That is real. And it was even commented on in Australian Parliament. So in Australian Parliament, they asked a question about, so what do you think that Lando Norris is being favoured in the McLaren team against Oscar Piastri? This is not something that us biased Australians are just making up. But that aside, Oscar, this is what I really admire about him. Also, when he signed up, you know, to drive for McLaren, remember the whole Alpine drama with them announcing him as a driver, and he hadn't even signed a contract with them in Formula 1 as a driver. And he put out a statement back then, three something years ago, saying, I have not signed a contract with Alpine. I will not be driving for Alpine next year. That's it. He did not do media interviews. He just maintained his composure, his dignity. And I feel like that's just the way Oscar carries himself. The whole world is like up in arms about McLaren's decisions and their favouritism and their strategies that always favour Norris. But Oscar has just not spoken out about it, not publicly anyway, and maintained his professionalism. And I really admire that about him. It'd be so easy just to make a snide comment here and there. I just don't think he's wired that way. So, fair play to him.
Yeah, I agree. Composure is the word I would have used as well. He's very composed. It's really impressive. When you've had moments where he wasn't being composed, it's felt awkward because it's like, oh my God, this is not this guy, you know? Like, I think one of the races where he asked for the position back because of a penalty he got, and it just felt awkward. It's like, oh no, this is not.
That was British Grand Prix.
Yeah, I watched the post-race conference. And someone asked Oscar about what he thinks is going to happen next year now that Lando is champion. Like, do you think things will change within the team? And he was like, no, I don't. I have full confidence that things will remain the same. There's an effort of being fair in this team, and that's how we work it, and that's how we go racing. And, you know, like, I thought the same thing, that it's like he has not once come out and said, oh, they're being unfair to me, they're favouring Lando. Whether he thinks it privately or not, I don't know. I got the impression that he doesn't think it, really, to be honest. I mean, otherwise he's a very good actor. He just seems like a very honest and kind of, I don't know, composed guy, and
down to earth.
I mean, let's see what happens. Yeah, right, down to earth, you know? And like, you got to look at it, like, he led the season this year for 15 races. 15 races. I mean, in his third year. Like, it's so impressive. And we've talked about this before. I do think, like, there's obviously a lot of, you know, dodgy calls that are happened within the team, and, you know, a bit on both sides. I still think Hungary 2 years ago was a silly call, and they should have just let Lando win the race, and then, you know, but they do their fairness, blah, 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 whatever. I think it's a massive learning for Oscar. I think his own mistakes in those 4 to 5 races after Monza were really his, you know, his, I don't say downfall, but like whereas Lando did stay consistent. And I think that will stand to Oscar massively next year. All going well, they have a good car, but I think he really will massively learn from that, because as he said himself in the same post conference, he was saying that like, I've only ever really been in 10 to 12 races or whatever in Formula 2 and Formula 3. This is 24 races. It's a different beast.
Yeah.
And so I think he'll massively learn from that. Like, I need to be more consistent. I need to be, unfortunately, it's not enough.
And just learn to keep some more fuel in his own tank to be able to endure a huge season of 24 races. Exactly right. I mean, it's double what he was doing in the lower categories. The whole of Australia is super proud of Oscar Piastri coming third after only 3 years in Formula One. Lando Norris has been with McLaren for 8 years. So it really does put that into perspective. And like you said, Max, full credit to Max. He drove a stellar race. He had the comeback of the ages, really, this season, being 104 points behind. I don't even know how many races ago that was. And just to come back and be really fighting for the championship win. It was good to see Oscar. Yes, when he was in the lead, like you said, Max was just eating into that lead lap after lap, and McLaren didn't bring him in to change his tyres. But then when Oscar was chasing down Max, when Oscar was in second position in the latter half of the race, Oscar was eating into Max's time. And, he even said on the team radio, what do I have to do to win? And there just wasn't enough laps left for Oscar to be able to make up the time. And the pace probably had to be a bit more than what he had in order to do that. Finished second on the podium, and a great season for him. And like you said, I'm sure there'll be lots of great learnings. And hopefully he'll come back stronger next year.
Yeah. I have to stay positive that he will. Because I mean, as much as I like Max and I liked watching him this season, I don't think I could go back into another constant Red Bull win, and I don't think I could go back into a Lando constant win.
A dominant Lando era. Oh God.
Yeah.
God help us all.
No.
Yeah, no.
God, no. Yeah. So So I think exciting. I mean, it's new regs, as you say, so anything can happen. Let's see. I mean, everyone's talking about Mercedes. God, it could be George.
Wow, it could be. It could be Kimi. Yeah, who knows? But, Cadillac will be joining
That'll be
us
fun.
Next year. So we'll have 22 cars on the grid. So this is the last time that we had 20 cars, 10 teams. So it'll be 11 and 22 cars on the grid next year. The other thing I quickly wanted to mention was to Formula Live Pulse, your app. Congratulations, 30,000 downloads.
Actually, we're 33,000.
Fabulous. No, that's brilliant. There's some huge extra features coming next year, and we'll talk about that a little bit more ahead of next season. But just speaking about what's coming up, so I've got a guest coming on next week to talk about the season in general. And then we're going to have a little break, but I'll talk about that next week and then come back in the new year with some more episodes and ready firing. But oh my God, I mean, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. And it's not just from moving house. It's like this season has been very emotionally draining, up and down, and whew.
Yeah. No, it's been an intense season, definitely. That's for sure. Yeah. It's been exciting though. It's good to see different people winning, different leaders of the championship, etc. So I'm hoping the 2026 brings us the same chaos and excitement.
The close racing has been so exciting. I mean, it almost seems crazy when someone said, oh, he was off the pace, and they're talking about 3/100ths of a second. It takes you longer to blink. It's crazy. It has been a super exciting season, and to finish 24 races with a decider at the very end is what every racing fan wants. It was awesome. And to everybody who's listened to the podcast all season, thank you so much for being with us. Last week we ticked over our first birthday, and I'm just so happy you're here listening and supporting the podcast. So thank you very much. Your support is massively appreciated. Kira, I think, it's come that time.
It's been good.
Well, thank you for joining us again and sharing all your wonderful insights on Formula One, and also to big up to Formula Live Pulse. Watching the race live, even though it was the middle of the night and I was dead tired, I was reading all the team radio live messages and, every now and then I'd look at the screen. But yeah, thank you for being the co-host seat these last several races. It's been great.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, all the best. And thank you, everybody, for having us in your ears. We'll be back next week. So until then, and until lights out.
It's lights out and away we go.
And Away We Go podcast is produced by Diane Bortoletto.
Let's do it.